The rhythm of healing, the octaves method. O is for observation, through stillness we find meditation and breath work that quiet the mind. In silence we listen, the answers are clear, awareness emerges, dissolving the fear. C is for compassion, for self and for all, embracing the good, the struggles, the fall. With kindness we grow, we nurture, we mend, learning to love ourselves as we extend. T is for therapy, a path we explore. Daily we practice unlocking the door. From journaling to mindfulness, healing begins. Each step is a victory as peace settles in. A is for animals and laughter so bright, like children at a play, their joy taking flight. With playfulness and movement, we rediscover the way to heal through the fun that we often delay. V is for victuals, nourishing and pure, detoxifying the body and keeping us sure. We choose what we eat with intention and grace, fueling our journey at our own pace. E is for exercise, where movement is free. We stretch and we bend in sweet harmony. Flexibility grows with choices we make. In strength and in stillness, our bodies awake. S is for socialize, where self-growth begins. Others reflect our triggers and the places within. Through relationships, our true selves we find, growing and healing with each tie that binds. The octaves method, where all behavior makes sense. We just need to find the sense it presents. We just need to find the sense it presents. We just need to find the sense it presents.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to Season 5 of the Trauma and Social Work Podcast. I am KJ Alexander here with my co-host, Tanya Octave, and today we have a lot of important information to dive into. But before we get started, I'm going to go ahead and let Tanya tell a little bit more about herself and what this podcast is about.
Hi, everyone. My name is Tanya Octave, and we are going into Season 5 of Trauma and Social Work Podcasts, where we will be discussing and diving deep into my book called Heal the Mind, 7 Strategies Towards Mental Wellness, Happiness, and Success, Exploring Trauma, Mental Wellness, and Ways to Live a More Balanced Life. And before we begin, just a simple reminder that this podcast is for informational purposes only. It is not intended for medical, psychological, mental health, or legal advice. Although I'm a licensed professional, this is not a formal type of treatment. We may talk about things like hypnosis and meditation and things that we would do in a therapeutic, from a therapeutic perspective, but it's not a form of treatment. For individual questions about your wellness, your happiness, and your success, please seek out a professional. And if you are experiencing a mental health crisis, do call 911 or go to your nearest emergency room.
Great, awesome. That was amazing. So with that being said, I want to make sure I tell the audience, if you haven't already, follow this page on Spotify, YouTube, and any other platforms we post episodes on. Make sure you subscribe to the channel so you don't miss any upcoming episodes in the future. And with that being said, let's go ahead and get started. Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the show. This is the Trauma and Social Work Podcast, episode 21. My name is KJ Alexander. I'm joined once again with my co-host, Tanya Octave. And today we're continuing our deep dive discussion into the book, Heal Thy Mind. And on today's episode, we're going to be finishing up where we picked off last episode and wrapping up this chapter with the chapter takeaway. So I'd like to go ahead and read this section from the book. Move towards a path of forgiveness, acceptance, kindness, and loving oneself. Your goal in life is to work on yourself, not to heal, cure, or treat others. You may guide them towards wellness, but they must do the work. The only true goal is for you to do your work. The ego is there to keep things in balance. Ultimately, once in harmony, happiness can be achieved. Then the ego is no longer needed. However, the ego desires to be needed to exist. So it will provide you with experiences in life so it can sustain itself. Learn to let things go. Remember, the work in life is your work. Taking care of yourself, taking care of the self is necessary. Learn to say no when things bring you out of balance, and learn to say yes when things bring you into balance. You may experience both as unfamiliar and uncomfortable. To discover ways of creating balance, you could consider seeing a professional clinician, which brings us to chapter 3. So, before we get into chapter 3, just to kind of summarize what we've read so far, you talk about how your goal in life is to work on yourself, not to heal, cure, or treat others. And I wonder if you can kind of detail, in your opinion, why do you feel like people at times feel the need to want to heal or fix other people more so than their own self? Where does that desire come from?
Life is like this beautiful journey, and we have all kind of experiences along the way to push us, to guide us. It's just sometimes we want to do the opposite. Sometimes we don't want to learn the lessons, and that's okay, because then the lessons keep getting repeated over and over again with the hope that you get to learn the lesson. And what I like to say and believe is you have a lifetime to get it right, Tanya. You want to get it right this lifetime, you want to get it right in another lifetime. You want to suffer this lifetime, or you want to have more happiness this lifetime, and learn the lessons and let it go. So even know that we even have freedom and choices within that. And so this is about, people will often tell me, particularly women, but this isn't excluded to women because I think men show up in similar ways, just in a different way. But I'll hear messages like, I'm so kind, people take advantage of me. Or I give out all my energy to my kids and I get nothing in return. I've done so much for my parents and they're just so mean and ungrateful towards me. And so it's like we then start to develop this part of our personality that says, well, because I'm good and I'm giving, then you then should be good and giving it back to me. It's like there was this contract that was made, but then we never really talked about the contract with other people. We never really got their okay or their signature on the contract. We just made assumptions that they would agree to this contract. And that can then lead to things like disappointment, rejection, resentment, and those things can build up in the body. And so there is this avoidance, probably by most of us, to want to do our work because there's a lot of projection. It's not me, it's them. I did record a YouTube video on self-defense mechanisms. And so do visit the YouTube website, Holistic Clinician, and find it's less than 10 minutes. And it talks about some of the major defense mechanisms that we have and that we use throughout the day. And so we might project, why is he doing this to me? Why is she so angry and making me feel this way? And so it is more acceptable for the ego to want to send a defense mechanism out when there's a threat. And that threat is, oh, I'm going to have to change. Oh, I'm going to have to be patient. Ooh, what do you mean? like there's
Mm.
like there's some shame here. Like there's some pain that I have to deal with. I'm not ready to do that. I got to go to work. Oop, defense mechanism kicks in to keep us in balance and to help us survive. And so then projection comes out and says, it's not me, it's him. He's the one that's been a horrible boyfriend and he's treated me so unkind. And I don't know, that may or may not be true. The thought is, what we're not doing is, ooh, I notice I'm being triggered. I notice that I'm feeling a little sad and maybe a little angry and defensive. I notice that coming up. And where is that coming from? We rarely do the internal work. We usually want to focus on the external because the internal work is hard. It's painful. We start it. We feel like it can lead us towards a path of depression, and it can. That's why I always suggest, when you're wanting to do this work and you want to grow in this way, that you do therapy, and not short-term therapy like solution focus or even EMDR. Those treatment models give you tools to survive, beautiful tools to survive. They are helpful. They are useful. I even have some techniques that I do in terms of EMDR. They are help to survive. But if you want to have a different type of life where you are understanding these things and want to do the work to get to know your personality, and then maybe be able to turn on things in your personality like forgiveness, especially when it's difficult, or turn on compassion, especially when you don't want to, then you're looking at a longer term psychotherapy journey, because then you get to do a little dance. Your ego does a dance with my ego, and sometimes that dance is playful. Sometimes you're like, ooh, I don't like this therapist no more. I want to quit. Sometimes you want to give up. Sometimes it's scary. Sometimes it's sad. All of it is to help you to get to know who you are in terms of this personality and ways to transform it so that you can live a life that is fulfilling. You can live a life that is satisfying, that is motivating, that is encouraging, and not other types of lives that people live in the world. And so, like, to your question, it's hard.
Yeah.
Think about it. If you're in a relationship and your girlfriend says, you're stupid, you're an idiot, you don't know how to count money, at some point, you're going to probably feel some way about that. If you don't verbally kind of express it back, it's going to feel some way, and it's going to arise all kinds of things in you. Would you at least agree to that? That's usually kind of what happens. Okay.
Yeah,
Imagine
absolutely.
doing that to yourself. Not that you're saying that you were stupid, but that you recognize that anger rises up when someone else is critical of you. Why?
Mm.
Why is that meaningful for you to feel some way when someone says that they're critical of you? That's the
Mm.
hard work. And that's
Yeah.
why this stuff is difficult. And that's why I always suggest seeking out someone who is trained, I mean, well trained, especially with an integrated program, because there's all these other little pieces that need to be in place when working with someone. Is not, for me, it's not just good enough that they went to college and they have a degree and that they're licensed. I want more. I want them to know about food and how food affects the body and the mind and the hormone. I want them definitely to know about the hormones too, because that plays such an important role. But I also want them to be meditators. I want them to be healthy. I want them to be able to stretch their body, because if they're the person that I'm coming to for assistance, then I have a criteria, because I want them to help me. So they got to be at least something to where I can achieve and know that they're doing it in their lives. I don't want someone who just knows how to read books and has a lot of acronyms behind their names. I want someone who's practicing what they're telling me to practice. you
Yeah.
know,
Yeah,
don't tell me
absolutely.
not to drink coffee because too much caffeine causes anxiety if you're having coffee every day. Like, huh? No.
Yeah. No, it definitely helps to be a walking example, especially when you're trying to basically tell somebody what to do or something about themselves. But I think it's interesting how, going back to the ego, the defense mechanisms always kick in. It could be with the smallest critique, right? Because the ego, basically what I'm getting is the ego believes that it's perfect. And the ego will tell a person that it's already perfect the way it is. There's no need to change anything. What you've been doing so far is already working perfectly. And whenever something comes in or somebody comes
Which
in to
perfect
challenge,
to balance?
okay,
Because balance can be bad or good. The
okay,
ego wants to keep you in homeostasis. So the ego wants to keep you in balance.
okay. So the ego will tell a person it's already in balance, and that may or may not be the case.
Mhm.
And that may be why we feel triggered when people bring up certain things to us, because we feel like it's automatically not true just based on how our mind is set up. And yeah, it's interesting. You mentioned how people sometimes do the opposite of what they probably should be doing when it comes to, self healing or whatever the case. They may focus on other people more so than themselves. And I think part of that has to do with the human nature and wanting to be a part of a community and grow with other people. So at times we may have a person in our life who does need,
Mm.
a helping hand, or who does need, someone to lean on for a moment. And when we're there for that person and we're able to help out, we do feel some sort of benefit within ourselves, but we also have to be careful to not let the person take advantage of that as well.
Mhm.
So everything always goes back to maintaining that balance. And there's
Right.
no,
And
yeah,
that's where the ego
exactly,
shows up because it wants to keep you in balance. And if it's
exactly.
starting to get you out, then a defense needs to show up to bring you back. This stuff works with good stuff too. It's not just bad. If I
Yeah.
say, KJ, you're so smart, you're going to receive that one way. If a sibling says, hey, KJ, you're a smart cat. I don't even know if they say cat anymore. You're a smart dude or something like that. then
Yeah.
then uh then you're gonna receive it some way. If some random person on the street says, you're kind of like a smart young man, you got a good head on your shoulders, you're gonna receive it some way. If some girl comes by that you've been in a relationship with and she says, you're just always acting like you're smart and you're a know-it-all, you're gonna receive it some way. Same message from other people, but you perceive it differently, even depending on the relationship you have from the person. And all of the people, their intent may all be positive, but it's how you receive it. The one that you felt some way about it, the strong intensity of it, that's the one that's the trigger. That's the one that you go internal to and says, when my mom says that I'm smart, it really made me angry. Why is anger showing up? Because these four other people said it and it was okay. So what is it about me that feels that with this particular personality? Why is it invoking this in me? So it even
Mm.
works with good stuff too. It works
Yeah.
with everything. The mind is the only one that says it's good or bad.
Yeah, absolutely. And yeah, it definitely seems like a person who wants to go on the path of rewiring their brain and unlearning a lot of these
Mhm.
behaviors. It's important to kind of recognize when things do trigger them, and try to get down to the root cause of the issue. And I'll even give a personal example. So if somebody tells me something, about how, my physical appearance, how I work out, or whatever the case may be, a lot of people take that to heart and they try to make it seem like the job is already done. But when you look at things like physical exercise and working out and things like that, this is something that you have to do consistently over time to really get the best results from it. So it doesn't matter, like, how many times have we seen, Olympic bodybuilders or people who have been, in phenomenal shape. And then you look at them 10, 20 years later and they have all these health issues and health concerns because the way they treated their body at a certain point in time, although they looked like they were in shape and they had the physical appearance, behind the scenes and under the curtain, there was a lot of malnutrition and bad dietary practices going on. And we only see the results years later. So
That's
with
true.
that kind of mindset, it's great to take in praise and to take acknowledgement for people who tell you things about yourself that are good or even bad. But ultimately, I think what we want to do with this podcast is give people the tools to be their own judge and to determine for themselves what information they can use to benefit their life, and what what information they receive that they kind of can just acknowledge, but still kind of put to the side and not give too much attention to, so it doesn't cause them to go into those defense mechanisms. So what do you think about that?
Good. I think it's beautiful. I think you're on a great path, kind of learning and trying to figure out and sort out some of this stuff and developing your own thoughts and ways of being and know and giving yourself to freedom to know, like, I'm growing, I'm thriving, I'm doing good now, and I'm moving to a place of thriving, and I'm going to be patient along that process, and I'm going to feel some way. I'm going to feel some way maybe when I can do 20 push-ups, and I'm going to feel some way when I can do 100 push-ups. And that I'm going to free my mind and not take on other people's junk about how they think I should show up and their expectations of what we think is a good body, right? Because when we look at these beautiful physiques, I work with bodybuilders, when we work on these beautiful physiques that they've really been able to kind of transform from something maybe of a smaller stature to something a lot more bulky, a lot more like kind of physically strong. What are we really looking at? Are we looking at the internal stuff that's going on and all the internal the transformations and how unhealthy it can be to sustain that long term? But then people tell me, well, I don't want it long term. I just want it right now. And I say, okay, good.
Yeah.
Right? Everybody gets to live their
Yeah.
life. And so I think that's important in terms of the transition to the self-reflective question. So I always give like 7 questions at the end in terms of self-reflection. So if you're keeping a journal, these are great opportunities and some ideas to begin a prompt. When you're writing a journal, you can do 1 a day. You can go back. You can reflect on 1 for a month. That's usually what I'll do is I'll take 1 and I'll reflect on it for a couple of months until I get inspired to move to the next question. But some of those questions in terms of like ego health is how can I care for myself? And this is beyond, at least for women, getting massages and getting our hair done and facials and our nails, all this kind of like external thing. So once you write that in your journal, keep writing, because then you really need to figure out what you're doing to care for yourself, because all of that stuff is external. The second question is, what is the inner, deeper work I need to do? And your defense mechanisms can get you there. So if you are identifying that anger keeps coming up, irritation keeps coming up, complacentness keeps coming up, whatever it is, projection keeps coming up, reflect on that and try to figure out what is the deeper work, because it's probably very visible to you when you put that mirror up and it's reflected back onto you.
Yeah.
And then 3, how can I forgive myself? And then who do I need to forgive? And these are sometimes challenging questions because we feel some way when we feel and believe that someone has harmed us. So reflecting on that, what are my struggles with being self-compassionate? So it's, beyond taking care of others, why do I struggle putting myself first? Why can't I feed myself before I feed my baby? Why can't I meet my basic needs before meeting my partner's basic needs? Figuring out that stuff, because those are the things that hinder us. And we all know, if we've traveled on an airplane, put your mask on first before anyone else's, including the infants. Put nutrients, vitamins, minerals, because your body's been depleted after having a baby. Put that in your body first so that you can provide the nutrients for the baby. Don't do it the opposite way, because then you're not giving the baby the most nutrient density that they can have in the food. What are the healthy qualities of my ego, of my personality? What qualities do I really like that show up? Maybe it might be laughter. Maybe it's compassion. Maybe it's kindness. Maybe it's tenderness. Maybe it's silence. What part of your personality that you like, and embrace it regardless of how other people judge it, because other people want you to come out of your personality all the time. If you're an introvert and this feels good and comfortable and it brings you solitude, embrace it, versus other people telling you, well, you need to go out more, you need to party more, you need to have more friends, you need to do this, this, and that. So reflecting on that. What is my daily self-care routine? Have a morning routine, have an evening routine, have a noon routine, have even routines before to like come up with 5 routines that you do during the day, something that you can do in terms of taking care of yourself so that you are knowing that you are really active and that you want to heal and you want to make it easy for the body to heal. You want to make it easy for the mind to stay in balance. You want to reconnect back to the spirit. And then the 7th question is, I will work on the following things this year to be loving and kind towards each other. We're 2025 and everybody does their New Year's resolutions. Well, it's a couple of months, since then. But what are the things that you need to work on? And how can you ask help in those particular things? If you need to work on diet, how do you seek out a holistic nutritionist? Not one. If you need to work on exercise, how do you seek out a coach to help you? Ooh, I'm one. If you want to improve your being in silence and meditation, who can you ask? Ooh, I'm certified in several meditation practices. So seek out a professional. If you want to learn to laugh, I am not a comedian, but I laugh a lot, and I do laugh therapy, and laughing is contagious. So you can even embrace that, right? Think about what it is that you want to work on, and maybe have some baby steps to get there. And maybe you start with some things that are like stop smoking, maybe learning to eat more vegetables, maybe to meditate more. Maybe you even start there, but maybe the bigger plan is maybe to understand more about defenses that show up, is to understand more about your personality. And then maybe like that path continues, because then the real work is about destroying the ego.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. And yeah, I think that was very well said. A lot of great takeaways to kind of wrap up the chapter. And very, very important information we just described. And I hope the audience gained a lot of value from today's episode. But is there any information you want to leave the audience with before we close out?
I just get so excited about this stuff. Our next episode, we're going to transition into tea therapy. This is where I shine. Well, I feel like I shine everywhere, but this is going to be another place for me to shine, because therapy is about engaging in therapeutic activities. Not necessarily traditional therapy, although traditional therapy is good. There was some great things that, Freud put out there that I think were very insightful. But, how can you engage in therapeutic activities, both with maybe someone who is trained, and then both like how can you integrate therapeutic activities for yourself so that you can move towards a healing state?
Awesome. Well, once again, I appreciate your time so much. Thanks for joining us. And that is a wrap for today's episode. Make sure if you haven't already, hit the like button and subscribe to the channel. Until next time, everyone be safe and bye-bye.
Wraps up another episode. I hope today's discussion provided clarity and tools you can use in your daily life. If you're ready to take the next step in the healing journey, I'd love to connect. Head over to my website to schedule a free 15-minute consultation. It is a great opportunity to ask questions and see how we can work together. And while you're there, download my complimentary workbook designed to help you reflect, grow, and move towards mental wellness, happiness, and success. Thanks for listening, and I will see you next time. The rhythm of healing, the octaves method. O is for observation, through stillness we find meditation and breath work that quiet the mind. In silence we listen, the answers are clear, awareness emerges, dissolving the fear. C is for compassion, for self and for all, embracing the good, the struggles, the fall. With kindness we grow, we nurture, we mend, learning to love ourselves as we extend. T is for therapy, a path we explore, Daily we practice unlocking the door. From journaling to mindfulness, healing begins. Each step is a victory as peace settles in. A is for animals and laughter so bright, like children at play, their joy taking flight. With playfulness and movement, we rediscover the way to heal through the fun that we often delay. V is for victuals, nourishing and pure, detoxifying the body and keeping us sure. We choose what we eat with intention and grace, fueling our journey at our own pace. E is for exercise where movement is free. We stretch and we bend in sweet harmony. Flexibility grows with choices we make in strength and in stillness. Our bodies awake. S is for socialize where self-growth begins. Others reflect our triggers and the places within. Through relationships, our true selves we find, growing and healing with each tie that binds. The octaves method, where all behavior makes sense. We just need to find the sense it presents. We just need to find the sense it presents. We just need to find the sense it presents.